Hi, my name is Quentin Hill. Welcome to my presentation about Native American communications. This presentation is for Class Communications 3352. Today I'm going to be covering a couple points about Native Americans, including background information, cultural history, how they communicated in a workplace, types of communication, how they worked as a team, and how these skills transfer into a modern workplace. So just how important were Native Americans? Just to cover some background information, they ruled America before Columbus's arrival for between 20,000 and 30,000 years ago. Just for some perspective, United States was founded less than 250 years ago. We think that we're at the top of the food chain, but the Native Americans were ruling for over 80 times longer than we were. Their primary collapse of their civilization was due to sickness, buffalo hunting, and wars with invading settlers. So just exactly how many Native Americans were there? I did some research on the population and I found a book called The Native Population in Americas in 1492. The author of the book was William Denevan and this was published in 2014. An excerpt from the book was research by some scholars provides population estimates of the pre-contact Americas to be as high as 112 million in 1492, while others estimate the population to have been as low as 8 million. In any case, the native population declined to less than 6 million by 1650. So, for some perspective, the America we live in now has 350 million Americans. So they had a third of our population back in 1492, upwards of, which is just an insane amount of people back in the day. So what is their estimated current population? According to the U.S. News population, there's 8.75 million across all of the different types of tribes that have survived. Over the span of 20,000 years, of course, there's going to be a lot of culture to be had. There's many different tribes. The federal government recognizes 574 Native American tribes in the continental U.S. and Alaska. With over 500 tribes, of course, there's going to be a lot of different languages and a lot of different culture. There were around 250 different languages spoken in the United States before the arrival of Europeans. These languages showed tremendous variety, gave settlers a big hurdle while trying to learn, since each one had different languages, but they wanted to trade for the resources that the Indians had. And that excerpt was from Teach Native Histories from the University of Massachusetts. Just some religious background about the Native Americans. They didn't believe in like Jesus or a god, but they believed in an all-knowing creator. They had various sacred rituals, items, and their famous Indian burial grounds. They were very spiritual whenever it came to taking care of the earth and making sure that they were self-sustainable. So with over 250 different languages, how would they communicate in the workplace? Indians would need use of translators. A big part of their communication as well was only speaking while it was quiet. A big thing with them was not talking while others were speaking, so they like to make fun of the white men for liking to speak over one another. They also like to use animal sounds to describe different hides, or while they were hunting, they'd like to mimic different animal sounds. Another way that they were able to do business with the different traders was nonverbal body gestures and hand signals to describe how many things they would want or what exactly they would need. And if they were to try to communicate over long distances, of course, the only way that they would be able to send a message over a couple of miles would be like smoke signals. So we covered how the Native Americans communicated within trading with new settlers, but how would they communicate within themselves? So one of their biggest ways that they survived was using teamwork, and of course you need teamwork to pull off hunting such big game as the bison were. So two ways that they hunted the bison with their teamwork and communication was called the buffalo jump and buffalo impound. So what they would do is they would take some members from the tribe and they would have some of them dress up as wolves, and they would have their fastest runner, which was the most honorable position, and he would be dressed as a bison, as a young bison calf, and they would have the young bison calf act that it is distressed and then run towards the edge of the cliff. And whenever the other bison would start stampeding along with the baby bison towards the cliff. They would have the other Indians run behind them, acting as wolves, and they would basically stampede them off of the cliff. They could get up to 50 buffalo at a time doing this, which is equivalent to 11,000 and 20,000 pounds of meat. Anytime they would successfully pull off a hunt like this, they would be able to feed their tribe for months. If they didn't have a cliff to push them off of, and they're trying to get a large number like this, they would try to funnel them into a crevice or make a fenced area and then trap them in the fenced area using the same method with the wolf skins and the bison skin, and basically pull off the same thing but shoot the trapped bison with arrows until they would be dead instead of them falling to their death. Um, these two communal hunting methods required skill, courage, teamwork, and dedication. Often, entire tribes would help with the hunt. With extreme cooperation, successful jumps could feed, clothe, and provide resources to entire tribes for extended periods of times. That quote was from nps.gov. So how would these primitive methods of communication and teamwork in a workspace translate over into a modern workspace environment? Um, I think that it's best to respond with mutual respect. They understand that hard work means high reward. As I covered, the fastest runner in the hunting party would be the most honored. Also, while the traders would be coming and traveling to trade, they would be confused because there'd be a different chieftain every time. The chieftains would switch based off of which skill set was the most needed at the time. So if they were at war, there would be a war chieftain. If they were in a stage of hunger, there would be a farming or a hunting chieftain. If they were in a stage of rebuilding, then there would be a construction chieftain, for example. So they didn't follow a necessary bloodline. They just knew that if they had a high skill set, then that was the most rewarded skill set at the time, and they would be promoted all the way up to chieftain. So they were great in team activities, but the main point is that you should just treat them equally as everyone else. They have some primitive stereotypes as being brutal and being drunkards, but uh, they're obviously just the same as everybody else, and they've existed here for much longer than we have. So I think that there's a lot more that we have in common and that we can learn from them more than anything. So in conclusion, I just wanted to summarize the main points. So we went over who the Native Americans were and what they believed in. We went over some cultural history background and some religion. We talked about how they communicated within one another and how they communicated with new settlers. We talked about their teamwork skills, how they were able to hunt together and pull off massive payloads, and how to respect Native history and culture in a modern day workplace. Lastly, I have provided a citation slide. This is all of the information that I used for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed and I hope that you learned something new. Thank you for watching.